Under 40 CEOs. Drive your ambition.
My name is Oyin Alakija. I'm a lawyer and managing partner at Dele Legal, which is a corporate commercial law firm with the head office in Lagos, providing sound legal advice to our clients. And I guess my pathway to law has been an interesting one, especially as a female in law. And I picked up just a couple of mentors along my way. So I'm very excited today to introduce you, sir, as a mentor, someone I have also been able now to meet personally and have been able to get a lot of personal advice on legal matters especially. So just a quick introduction. Mr. Dele Belgore is a senior advocate of Nigeria, a legal luminary, and one of the founding partners of Shofunde Osakwe Ogundikwe and Belgore. And I'm excited to introduce you to everyone here and excited for you to join me on this ride today. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Oyinka. It's my enormous pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So I wanted to ask, maybe I could start with asking you why law? Why you decided to go down the path of law?
Well, actually, a natural thing for most people to think is because I come from a family of lawyers and judges that law was just a natural step for me. It wasn't. I actually wanted to be a landscape architect, but that didn't work because my dad would have none of it. He called it derogatory. He says, "Oh, so you, in other words, you want to be a gardener?" I held my ground and I said, "Listen, you can't tell me what to do, what to study." He says, "Yes, yeah, I cannot tell him what to study, but at the same time, I cannot force him to pay fees for something he doesn't believe in." So we had a standoff, and then after, I don't know, a few months, I sort of gave in. And but he never ever told me to study law. But the moment landscape architecture was off the table, it just seemed natural that I would gravitate to law. So that's how come I became a lawyer.
Thank you. Even I didn't know that, so that's really interesting to note. And I think the legal juices were already showing forth with that debate with your dad. So for young lawyers who, I think one of the hardest thing, that I found as well personally, is as a young lawyer working maybe in a law firm or thinking about starting your own law firm, and you're someone who started your own law firm. How do you decide what to do? Do you start your own law firm, or do you try and make partner in a law firm?
The landscape today is wholly different to the time that we started in 1985. Today, there are much more law firms. Legal practice is wider. It's a lot more competitive. At the time that we started our partnership in 1989, it was one of the very few partnerships in Nigeria. The normal run of things is that you had a sole proprietorship. A certain person had his own law practice, and it is that sort of thing, and you employed your lawyer. So the concept of a partnership at the time was new to us in Nigeria. We were not the first ones, I would say. I'm not saying by any means that we're the first ones, but they were very, very few. You could count them on your fingertips. Today, given the complexity of practice, given the competition, I think I do not believe strongly that there is much room for a sole proprietorship. You've got to team up with colleagues, share experiences, share competence. There's got to be synergy to move forward. But even before that, I think there should be some form of grounding. You know, in the military, they have a saying that in order to command, you must first learn how to serve. So I think for any young lawyer, I would say have a stint as an employee first and see how that goes. One, you're learning from people who are senior to you. Aside from learning the rudiments of the law, you are also learning how you would yourself be an employer, run a law practice. So it's a slow burn. You know, I don't think it's something you can just come by overnight and just say you are ready to go. I think it's you know, a slow burn.
It takes time. Thank you for that. I think that's really interesting that, you know, at the time you started the partnership, there were very few partnerships in Nigeria. I mean, that's really interesting. I had no idea.
Oh, there were very few. Sorry, I'm sorry to cut it. And if I may also add, aside from the fact there was very few, there was also this feeling that partnerships don't work in Nigeria because the few that have come before us didn't work. The partnership broke up within a very short time of their formation. So there was this thinking that partnerships don't work. I remember a lot of people were saying to me that when we were about to start, why do you want to do a partnership? They don't work in Nigeria. And I, speaking with my colleagues, Shofunde, Mr. Shofunde, Chief Osakwe, Mr. Gundikwe, also, they also had people telling them this same thing at the time.
So I think that, you know, that actually goes on very smoothly to the next question, which would be, so how do we make partnerships work? So like for lawyers who do decide maybe after some time paying their dues, they want to join a partnership or form a partnership, what would you say the key qualities to making it work are? Because you have one of the most successful partnerships that exists in the legal field today, and one of the longest standing. So what would you say, what's the key to making it work?
Well, first I would say look for a partner in which you share a common objective. By a common objective, a partner who agrees with you on how you have a vision on the kind of law practice you want to create, and your ideas gel. For instance, in this business, there's some lawyers who believe, and I'm not saying they're wrong, that the bottom line is how much you put in your pocket. So their model is pay low salaries, pay very low rent, just get your rent, get your office somewhere where the rent is not paid, and keep your overheads exceedingly low. So they're not interested in fancy offices, you know, and they're probably operating at a rudimentary level. And so when they earn a fee, maybe less than 10% of that actually goes towards running their office. The idea is that they keep as much of it
For themselves.
Of course, the other way is that you first have to invest heavily in this outfit, and in which case you are carrying strong overheads, and then you believe that that investment is then what will bring you the work, and gradually you get the work and your overheads tend to reduce. So if you want to form a partnership and you are talking to somebody with a different mindset than you're probably on the wrong footing from the outset. So there's got to be some meeting of minds on that. Secondly, you got to understand, then when you're picking your partner, pick somebody perhaps that has skill sets that you don't have, or maybe you have, but you don't really have time to work on. There is no point in absolutely no point in replicating yourself. So there's got to be a difference. Each person has got to be able to bring something in, and it is that combination that is a goal. And then third, you've got to then accept that once you have the common objective, you're going to have different ways of doing things, and it's very important. Before we started, the group that I've ended up with were not the only ones I was talking to. But I remember I was talking to some other group, and but I noticed that we had this guy who is very enthusiastic, full of ideas, okay, and he made very, very good points, and he'll be good to have as a partner. But we all noticed that when he made a suggestion and you didn't accept it, he tended to lose interest. So we clearly felt that this guy is not a partnership material, because in a partnership you get a situation where I will do something different to the way you would do it. Doesn't mean I should condemn it, and I may just say, okay, you do it, as long as the overall objective are the same. It's the same. So I think those are the key fundamentals that you want to look at before you commit to a partnership.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And how about for lawyers who decide to grow organically within the firm, like at Shofunde Osakwe, Ogundipe and Belgore now? If someone wanted to be a partner, what would the partners be looking for, in any law firm? Any of the law firms, what would, because again, these would already be established partners, and somebody else coming in to join the ranks. And so what would the partners be looking at before deciding if to give someone a seat at the table?
Well, for me, and I say this to lawyers, junior lawyers all the time, see yourself as a service provider. Clients come to you with a problem and they want you to provide a solution. And the client is not interested in, the Supreme Court said this in this case, the section 285 of KAMA, this is what it provides, and things like that. The client doesn't really want to know that. It's useful for you to know that it's good academic exercise, and you can deal with all of that in-house, But the client has a problem, and he wants to get from A to B. Okay? Look at the most effective way in which you can get him from A to B. And if that is your thinking, okay, then you're thinking in the right way for a partner. Because if you're just somebody who, you get the work, you apply immediately, you start bringing your legal skills, this is what the law says, this is what the law says, and you can be actually very busy and effective in that, but are you delivering the service? So always put yourself in the position of the client receiving your service. So therefore you're looking at yourself as a service provider, and you're seeing the law profession has a service. That, to me, when you're thinking that way, you are partner material. Okay? It is not just about, this guy is a very good, clever lawyer. If you're a very clever lawyer, then somebody will be happy to employ you on very good on very good terms.
Exactly.
But you want to know that you're seeing it as a business, and you can move the practice forward.
Yes. I think some lawyers feel too it's just about bringing in clients, and maybe that's why you find some young lawyers who have good networks leaving too early. They leave the law firm too early, go and start their own practice, but they haven't gotten a full understanding or knowledge base of the law itself. And they think they can hire someone to provide the service, not realizing that most problems don't come out in easy equations. You actually have to, you get the problem, you have to work out what the mathematical equation is first before you can solve it.
Yeah. Quite aside from that, the thing is this: when you're under cover of a law of an established practice, what you're able to do there doesn't automatically translate to you doing the same thing when you're on your own. For instance, I may be very well connected, but I have a big name practice behind me.
Yes.
Okay? Then I can use that connection to bring in the work.
Yes.
Okay? Now, if I then get carried away and say, oh, I'm bringing in all this work to this firm, let me go set up my own. Those same clients, would they be willing to come to me when they know that I don't have this established and experienced name behind me? We sometimes lose sight of that. Okay, and it's very important.
Because it's true. I think it's also similar to banks. You might have an amazing accounts officer, but you also like the facilities a certain bank is providing, and they move to another bank and it's smaller. You might not have as much trust in the establishment behind the person, and you just leave your account where it is.
Institutional cover is very important. Yeah.
Another question I'd like to ask you, it's more for the females, is, where do you see female involvement in legal practice? Growing up, law was very much, an old boys club and dominated by men in the field. Would you encourage them to stay? And what do you say about female participation in the years to come?
Unfortunately, well, let's look at it this way. For litigation, there are a number of factors that militate against females. If you do active litigation in which involves you traveling, the male counterparties find it a bit easier and it's a bit more convenient for him to do that, because you have a case somewhere outside of Lagos, you're probably going to be staying in a hotel that you're not sure of, you're going to be in an environment where you probably know no one. You're just booking your hotel, getting car hire and things like that. So those kind of things could be daunting for female, and therefore some institutions, and I would say that we, for instance, didn't send female lawyers to go do cases outside Lagos in remote parts. I mean, we would do in a place like Abuja because we know they'll get a comfortable hotel. There's transportation, but we won't send them to some other places. So in that regard, their male counterpart is probably doing more of that kind of work. That has affected a lot of women for litigation. For non-litigation work, I think it's fairly even. I mean, the opportunities are equal. And that probably, this question probably explains why now you tend to have more female judges than you have males, because the woman who is interested in a sound family structure wants a regular job. I go in at 5, I go in at 8 or 9, I know by 6 or something. Yes. I'm back home with my family. I can still put my kids to bed before for school the next day, and so on and so forth. If I'm in active litigation in which tomorrow I have to go to Uyo, then from Uyo I'm asked to go to Asaba, then I come back, I'm in Lagos for a couple of days, then I have to go off to Kano. It's not
as feasible.
It's unsettling. So generally, I think that is a challenge that women face. But by and large, I think if you take that out, I think the opportunities are fairly equal.
I can imagine that completely. I think also for a female, especially if you're married, the support of your husband is very important in making business decisions. And if you're unmarried, your parents, the way they encourage you, because some parents will say you just can't go there, you know. So I think that's all important, you know. Thank you so much for your words of wisdom, and thank you for sharing it with us today. Thank you for sharing your experiences, and I hopefully teaching young lawyers how to stay in the game and get to the top of the ladder just as you have.
Well, thank you very much. So, like I said, it's a pleasure doing this, talking to you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Under 40 CEOs, drive your ambition. Brought to you by Mitsubishi. Shot on Samsung. Marsilia Motors, sole distributors of Mitsubishi Motors in Nigeria.